You have the right to record. It don't make any sense calling the 911 or anybody that is recording and they're just standing there and aren't causing interference. And it just, you have the right to community watch. Okay? You have the right to know, what's going on in your neighborhood. Okay? Just don't, you know, just record at a distance, of course, quietly, and be quiet if if necessary, unless you gotta say something. You know, this is to anyone that does this. You call 911 on someone recording and they clearly didn't do anything wrong, and you cause these cops to make a false report where there shouldn't be no report, a problem that should have easily been avoided by just simply keeping your mouth shut and just continue to go about your business and just ignore the person recording. Okay? They're standing there quietly, not interfering with your situation, recording what's going on. You have the right to record, for example, like say you're standing outside of Walmart and you see the cars rolling, passing by, and you're recording from a distance. You have the right to record, okay? Okay, there are cameras inside of Walmart that record the public. So we can have the right to do the same thing, okay? Don't call 911 on somebody for recording, okay? You don't want to have these cops come out for no reason, okay? And then, you what if you get a cop and, you know, and you might or might not get this said to you. So you called me out here for no reason over someone recorded when they have a right to record, okay? This is minor, okay? It's just, this is not a big deal matter, alright? It's small. I don't see any reason why anyone would get arrested or let alone have the cops call on them for recording. So I would just tell you right now, if I decide to do the same thing, I'm mindful of what and who I record, so just use common sense. If I personally decide not to record, it's for a reason. If it's a personal situation, then no. Alright? But if it's for all to see, then yes. Alright? Let me tell you something. Do not call the cops out on me if you see me recording, or you're gonna regret it. Okay? If I do the same thing, I record quietly. Alright? There are some YouTube channels I like to watch that do record it. Community watch, I will not mention what they are, Okay? I just want to let you know you have your right to record. Okay? It's that simple. There's no need for arrest or even for one to call 911. Okay? Leave 911, leave these cops alone. Alright? Mind your own business. And there's a reason why I'm saying that. Because you did that, so you wouldn't have thought of calling the cops on someone recording. Okay? Don't cause a problem for somebody that didn't do anything wrong to you or to anybody else. Okay? Leave them alone and allow them to record. Okay? You have the right to know what's going on in your community, and you have the right to share it with the public if so need be, unless you choose to make it private because the matter is personal. Alright? Okay? Stand up for what you believe in. Alright? Okay? Believe that you have the right to record, which you do. Okay? And the best way to do it is to be quiet while you're recording. Okay? If somebody says something back to you and you feel the need to respond back, do that. Okay? But what I would do is I would avoid the bait. Just tell them, you know, remind the cops what your rights are. And it's very simple. I have the right to record. Okay? It's that simple. Keep it simple, alright? That's your right. Alright? So, the next time you see a scene where there's a couple of cop cars, you know, from a distance, of course, you can get closer while recording. You could stand there, or if you want to get the car number, of course, zoom in, come closer, and record that. And then I would keep it moving, okay? Just move yourself out the way, record, from a distance and be quiet. And if some cop tell you you can't record, tell them that they need to be quiet and that you have every right to record what's going on. Okay? So keep it simple. Just don't engage with them if they continue to say something, or even if a person that isn't a cop tell you the same thing. You tell them, I have every right to record what's going on, so do you. Okay, I'm not doing anything wrong. Alright, be quiet about what I'm doing and record quietly, for you can certainly do the same thing. Alright, do not call 911 on on something like this. Okay, there's no problem. Alright? Once again, there is no problem in recording out in public. Are you gonna call 911 on somebody for recording in the music studio? Are you gonna call 911 on somebody for recording in the church service? Are you gonna call 911 on somebody using print screen to record their own video work project on the computer? Are you going to call 911 on somebody that's preaching the gospel? Or are you going to simply mind your own business and go about your life and be not the one, not to cause trouble, unwanted trouble over something such as this? Okay? Once again, tell me where is the problem in someone recording the public or doing community watch or audit? Okay, I see no problem in whatsoever. Okay? So I would just say this right now. Do not call 911 on me or anybody else that's recording community watch or doing audit in their own area or neighborhood. If it's a cop audit, you have the right to record what they're doing. Okay, that includes the public. Okay, you know, the business establishment. All right, now there are places where I respect the fact that you cannot record because it's private or personal, and you need to respect that and simply not record. Okay? If you see a sign that says that, then I would not record, okay? So that you can avoid, being in a situation where someone complains and the cops get called out. All right? It's just utterly ridiculous, but it's not if there's some places that don't want you to record, it's for a reason. Okay? In most places you can. So you need to also respect the fact that out there, someone out there doesn't want you to record. All right? But you can record if you clearly see that you can. All right? Especially if you know your rights. And I'm going to open this up, go to Google, and type something in. Now I typed something in and I got a response. Do you have a right to record in Port St. Lucie? Yes, you have a general right to record video and take photos in public spaces in Port St. Lucie, including law enforcement officers performing their duties, provided you do not physically interfere with them or trespass on private property. However, audio recording is subject to strict state consent rules. Public recording and police. You can legally film or photograph anything in plain sight outdoors or in public buildings as there is no reasonable expectation of privacy in public. So that's for public spaces. For recording police, you have a First Amendment right to record on-duty police officers in public. You must stay a safe distance back. Typically, police may ask you to remain about 25 feet away and avoid obstructing their work. And audio consent rules, two-party consent. Florida is an all-party or two-party consent state under Uh, FLA stat 93403 2. Private conversations. You cannot record a private or confidential oral communication with audio unless everyone involved gives explicit consent. Doing so without permission can carry criminal penalties. See, like I said before, we have to respect that. Don't record private conversations if someone don't want it recorded, or even a private business, okay? Even though it don't mention that here. Public exception, the audio consent restriction generally applies where there is a reasonable expectation of privacy. Loud open conversations held in public areas where people can naturally overhear do not carry that same expectation of privacy. Okay? So I clicked that link there and it says Florida Reporters Recording Guide, last updated October 2019. Summary: all parties must consent to the recording or the disclosure of the contents of any in-person, telephone, or electronic communication in Florida. Disclosing communications in violation of the state statute is prohibited. The state's video voyeurism law bans the secret recording of images of individuals in areas where they are undressing and have a reasonable expectation of privacy. Both criminal and civil penalties exist for violations of the recording law, while the video voyeurism law has criminal penalties. Okay? And you can read the rest of this here. In-person conversations. Okay? Telephone, electronic communications. Alright? And hidden cameras. Criminal penalties, civil suits, disclosing recordings, right to record government officials in public. Okay? So you can read the rest of this here. Okay? Um, so I'm gonna just go back over here. You could come to here and just read the rest of that on your own. Anyway, this ask anything, you'll get a computer generated response of whatever you put in there. Okay, it's AI generated. That's why it says AI overview. All right. So um, know the law, important Florida law reminder. Um, let me see. Okay, I'm looking at a flyer here. I'm on someone's Facebook. Know the law, important Florida law reminder. Florida is a two-party consent state. In Florida, all parties involved in a conversation must give consent before it can be legally recorded. And recording someone without their permission can be punished as a third-degree felony in the state of Florida, punishable up to 5 years in prison, up to $5,000 in fines, and a felony record. And I'm like, wow. Okay, I'm gonna keep reading here. Respect others' privacy. Of course, I talked about that in the video. Know the law, protect yourself. Okay. Alright. Mm-hmm. Okay. Let me go back. And then there's a link saying Florida video recording laws. Okay. I'm gonna tell you something. You have a business recording the public, we have the right to record them back, okay? Okay, we can watch what you're doing also. So anyway. Um, let me see. I'm just doing further research on this. See if I find something else. Okay, I'll read it again. In Port St. Lucie and throughout Florida, you have a constitutional First Amendment right to openly video and real audio record police officers and public officials performing their duties in public spaces. However, Florida enforces a strict two-party, all-party consent rule for private audio recordings and a first responder buffer zone. Public spaces and recording the police. Openly recording, you can freely photograph or video record law enforcement officers, code compliance officers, or public officials in public areas like streets, parks, or during traffic stops as long as you do it openly. The 25-foot buffer zone. Under Florida's first responder buffer law, if an officer or first responder is actively executing their duties and verbally commands you to move, you must stay at least 25 feet away. No interference. Your recording must not physically block, threaten, harass, or instruct officers from doing their work, or you can face lawful arrest for obstruction or a misdemeanor violation of the buffer zone. Okay. General audio and video recording laws. Two-party consent. Florida Statute 934.03 is an all-party consent state for private communications. You cannot secretly record a private conversation or phone call where participants have a reasonable expectation of privacy unless every single party consents. No expectation of privacy in public. Conversations loudly spoken in open public areas where people can readily overhear do not carry a reasonable expectation of privacy, making open recording permissible. Video voyeurism. Secretly filming or photographing someone where they have an expectation of privacy, such as a restroom, dressing room, or up through clothing, is strictly illegal under Florida's digital voyeurism laws. Okay. Okay, you can read about this here. Right to record the police in Florida on the ACLUFL.org website. Okay, I'll read some of it. Okay, so when can you record the police? Anytime you're in the open public space. For example, most public roads, public parks, and public beaches where other individuals can witness what is happening. You can record the police as long as you are not interfering with police activity. Always make sure that you have the right to be in that area. Anytime you are in a more private place, for example, a public road that is not easily visible by other individuals, there are a couple questions you should ask yourself before recording the interaction. Can other people still witness what is happening? Has the officer consented to being recorded? If the answer to either of those questions is yes, you may proceed to record with caution. If the answer to both questions is no, the law is less clear. Please see below for precautionary steps that should be taken any time a recording is made. Okay? Precautionary steps you should always take. Announce that you are recording what is going on. Stay at least 25 feet from a police officer upon request. Do not interfere with the police actions while recording. Okay? Of course, me personally, I would want to stay at a distance if I'm recording police. Okay? So, and, you know, record quietly. Okay? Because if you record, you make a whole bunch of boisterous noise and bullhorn and all that stuff, and they're trying to do the work, that could be one way of interfering with the work of law enforcement. So, of course, be quiet when you record, okay? Anyway, just it's always good to know uh, the law for recording in Florida, so you're aware. All right, and there's even a PDF. All right, so I'm gonna save this link, and I thank you for watching.